Hi everyone, welcome. We welcome to Cooking with Chef Carole. My name is Wendy Sachs and I'm on the board of Plant Powered Metro New York, who is presenting this delightful series this Sunday. Plant Powered Metro New York empowers people to find better health and overcome chronic disease through whole food, plant-based nutrition. Together with a wide variety of network, grassroots leaders, organizers, and educators, we raise awareness about the dramatic health benefits of whole food, plant-based eating. With a food as medicine approach, we offer education, build supportive communities that empower people to make lifestyle changes, and organize and lead projects that spark adjustments to food policy, practice, and culture. So welcome with our how-to series in cooking. Today, Carole will be focusing on flatbreads plus spreads, sauces, and dips. Carole's work explores the delicious world of plant-based cooking without added salt, oil, or sugar. And let's see if I have anything else to add. Yes, if you can, first let me welcome those who are listening to the replay on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you'd like, please let us know where you're from in the chat, because it's fun knowing who's here across the country or internationally. And then please go ahead and ask your questions in the chat. I will do my best to answer them. Carole may or may not have time during the presentation to answer them. We'll see how it all goes. There's a lot to cover today. And we will allow 10 to 15 minutes at the end where I'll accumulate the questions, and hopefully if Carole has time and we have time, we'll be able to get them answered directly from Carole as well. So, quick bit from the history corner. While flatbreads originated in Egypt, many cultures have many versions of flatbreads, from naan in Afghanistan and India to the tortilla in Central and South America, to the piadina in Romagna, Italy. The flatbread has been produced just about everywhere. In America, we might commonly find it as a pizza dough, but Carole will explain the difference between pizza dough and flatbreads. So today we're going to explore a whole food plant-based version of flatbreads and all the diversity of sauces, dips, and toppings that we can use, including some gluten-free options. So, Carole, what's on the menu today?
Thank you, Wendy, and welcome everyone. I'm so happy that all of you are here for what is practically my favorite thing in the world, which is not so much pizza, but just flatbreads with toppings on them. And I try not to get caught up in the words, is this a flatbread or is this a pizza? We're not making a pizza dough that takes, hours to sit. We're gonna make a quick, fast dough that only needs 10 minutes rise. And then we're gonna make a couple different kinds of flatbread. So we have a lot on the menu today. We also have 3 different kinds of dips and sauces, or dips and sauces, if that's what you want to call them. And those things are, we're going to make baba Ghanoush. We're going to make, which is one of my very favorite things. We're going to make Romesco, which is a red sauce made of roasted red peppers and tomatoes. And then we're also going to make one of my very favorite things, Salsa Verde. And why do all these things go together? Not just because I love them so very much. It's because it's the end of summer, right? We are moving from summer into fall. And the things that we're using today is bountiful right now, and I love it all so much, and we are in the height of it right now. So let's get on, and we'll start making things. Okay, so our very first thing that we're going to do is preheat the oven. That is important, and we're going to preheat the oven, and I am preheating that to 425 degrees. So when we're making this pizza, anything we do with it, it's going to cook at 425 degrees. Now I have carefully measured 2 cups of flour. This is not my recipe. Actually, none of the breads are my recipes at all. I'm bringing them to you to show you how easy they are and to call attention to them. This particular recipe is a forks over knives recipe. It's a pizza dough with no oil, which is fantastic. And in the recipe that I actually typed up for you, I said if you want, you could put in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt if you want to. I try not to, but if you're going to use salt anywhere in your diet, it is bread that really needs a little bit of salt. And I also, I'm using a little bit of sugar. The kind of sugar that I'm going to be using today is date sugar, which is not processed. It's just a whole dates that have been dried and ground, pulverized into a powder that looks just almost looks like yeast, actually. So again, you need to use some kind of sweetener always when you're pairing it with a yeast, because the yeast needs the sugar to ignite it, to make it rise. Okay, so you cannot omit the sugar, but if you want, you can omit the little bit of 1/4 teaspoon of salt that Forks Over Knives actually says is a good proportion. Okay, and we're using whole wheat white flour today. And in the recipe, if you've gotten the recipes, I actually distinguish that you can use, there are 2 kinds of flours, and you are not to be confused by them, okay? The 2 kinds of flour is, there's a whole wheat flour, and that's made from the red wheat berry. And that is 100% whole wheat, and it is darker, more dense, and has more fiber. And it's going to give you a little bit of a heavier dough, where the whole wheat white flour is still 100% wheat, but it's made from the white berry, and it's a little lighter, little nuttier, and is really good for this dough, actually. So if you can get your hands on the whole wheat white flour, that is very common in the grocery store, but either one of them work. They're interchangeable. And if you are gluten-free, then just substitute a gluten-free flour that is on the market, okay? That's what I'm going to suggest. So the very first thing that you always want to do is, I put the yeast. The recipe calls for a teaspoon, and if I can just find it in my notes here, actually, it's 1.5 teaspoons. 1.5 teaspoons of fast rising yeast, and then 3/4 teaspoon, and I've used date sugar. And if you want to use any other kind of sweetener, you can. And then you want to have 1 cup of warm water. Okay, that's just warm, tepid, right? And you're going to just put that in the bowl. Okay, and you always want to proof your yeast. So I give it a little mix with a whisk. And usually when I do this, I just actually walk away for like 10 minutes. I actually go somewhere else, because if I have a big bag of yeast that I've been using for quite some time, actually, since the middle of the pandemic. Maybe some of you remember, it was impossible to get yeast at one time. This is from June of 12 last year, and it's very active still. I'm at the bottom of this bag, but I just wanted to show it to you. And what you want in this little bowl is for it to start to rise. It will actually start to foam and bubble, okay? So that's what you're looking for. You want to make sure that that happens, and once that happens, then you know you're good, that your bread is going to rise, okay? In the meantime, I measured 2 cups of flour, okay? And the most of the flours in here, this, I usually put 2 cups just like that. And I just want to show you that I always take some back out, okay? When you're making any kind of bread, I mean any kind of biscuit of bread, any kind, I never put the whole recipe. Like if the recipe calls for 2.5 cups, I put 2 cups. I always pull back some, because depending on the moisture in the air, depending on where you live, I live in a high altitude place now, so things are a little bit different, a little bit drier. The air could be moist, the flour could be dense. Just every time you make a change, there are so many different kinds of flours on the market. So you want to just keep some flour on the side, and then we'll add that back in to the mixture as we're mixing. So that I don't go into a long explanation, I know this is good. I'm not going to wait for it to rise like that. And I'm immediately going to put this bowl to the side. I'm going to get a spatula. I do get in there with my hands pretty quickly. Again, this is a great dough, and I recommend it. I think it's a good dough. And why do I recommend it? Because it needs no time. Most pizza doughs take several hours, and some of the best ones actually have to sit overnight in the refrigerator. And the reason that is it actually slowly develops, and you get a lot of those little air pockets. That is not this dough. This dough is just a yummy. I want to tell you, it's almost like having a quick bread, you know, like when you have a quick bread opposed to a one that has to rise for a long time. So I immediately get this spatula out of here, and it's very sticky. Okay, and I'm going to put a lot of the flour in, and I'm now going to get in there with my hands, my very clean hands. Okay, and I just start to give it a folding. Okay, so how I want to show you what I'm doing, I'm slowly folding this over. Now this is very sticky, so I'm immediately adding more flour. Okay, again, we need 2 cups. The recipe says 2 cups. We might need 2 1/4 cups. Okay, again, I'm just giving it a fold, and I try to do as much of the sticky part in the bowl. Okay, eventually it does have to come out of the bowl. Quite soon it has to come out of the bowl, and I'll just show you when it comes out of the bowl. You see, here it is. Okay, that comes out of the bowl, and I immediately put water into this bowl that I've been using. Otherwise that all gets dry and really crusty. And I put a little bit of water, and I want to dry this hand. Now we have a clean spot here. I just made the counter wet, which is not good. And we're going to need more flour. I can see because I barely have any. This is my last of the 2 cups. Okay, I'm putting a lot of flour on the counter, and I'm going to start to knead this. Okay, and with each knead, I'm giving it a quarter. I'm turning it. Okay, I'm turning it, turning it. Okay, this is a technique, and not everyone's going to be good at it right away, but you want to just push with the palm of your hand and then turn. Okay, and you're going to learn to feel when that dough is correct. Now, I have all this awful stuff on my fingers, which I really can't stand, actually. And the way you get all that off, usually it was with more flour, okay? But there's nothing like getting it off. And I'm going to get a little bit of flour out. Where do I have flour? Just here. Just let me get a little more. I have a big container of flour here. I'm just going to bring this flour right here, just close by. Again, if you wanted to get that off your fingers, all you have to do is rub, and it all comes off. Don't put your hands in the sink when you still have all that stuff on, okay? And this gets moving around, okay? So that is going to knead, and you might say, well, how long am I going to knead it for? I would say a good 5 minutes, okay? You could do it in a mixer if you have a mixer with a dough hook. I always prefer just to do it by hand, because why get the mixer dirty? And how do you really know when it's ready? It starts to come together, and it's starting to look, the surface is starting to look really shiny, and it's no longer sticky. It's a little bit wet, and we're just going to put a little more flour, okay? And then this dough is literally just going to sit and rest for 10 minutes. So that is our dough, okay? Now again, as I said, normal pizza dough, you would do this same method. It would often have oil in it, and you would often let it sit for a good several hours, punch it down, and then punch it down again. But this is not that dough, and that's what's so great about it. Okay, so I think we are done here. I am going to make it into a ball. Okay, here it is. And I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on it. And we're going to put a towel over it. And I'm not even going to bother to clean the counter. We're just going to leave that there. And then I'm going to get a very clean towel. I have a towel here, big white towel. It's kind of like a flour towel. And I'm really gonna cover this dough. Okay, I don't want any air getting in. Sometimes I put it in a bowl, but we're gonna use it so fast. So that's just gonna rest, okay? That's it. That is our very first thing that we're learning, okay? I can take a question, Wendy, if there were a question, but I am going to move on because we need to make the salsa verde for the pizza.
You can move on. Just one delightful comment, which is from Mitch in Long Island, who you know and remember, who, like me, didn't know there was a difference between wheat flour and white wheat. Wheat flour and white, yeah, the white wheat flour. Anyway, that was an awesome detail and no other questions, so...
Well, I have to admit to both of you that I was always confused by it for a very long time. I thought, I don't understand. It says whole wheat and it says white. And I'm not using white flour anymore, so I'm very confused by all this. But then I started to study it and understand it. And of course, it is interchangeable. And like you want to make sure that one is a much denser, has more fiber and darker in color. And that's the one I usually use, but today I'm using the white whole wheat flour. Okay, so we're gonna move on because we need this salsa verde and we will go back to bread making, but let's just get our salsa verde like out of the way. Now I've done a lot of prep today because we have a full menu. So let's first go over our ingredients, okay? Very quickly. I hope all of you know what tomatillos are. They may be one of my favorite things in the entire world, and I'm growing them in my yard. And I have a million of them, and they are just starting to come out. They have a paper husk on them, much like a corn husk is on a corn on the cob. And once you peel that, when you peel that, comes a green tomato. And something I didn't know till recently is that the husk grows first, and then the tomato grows inside, kind of like a protective, like a little bit like a caterpillar. Okay, so I said that we need 7 to 8 of these, and these are about the normal size. They're not, this is actually a little bit big. Sometimes they come as little as this, okay? So what I did was I said we need about 7 or 8 of those, and I have a pile, and I roasted, almost everything I've made today is roasted in a 425 degree oven, okay? So what I did was I put a sheet pan, and I roasted the tomatillos, and so they're already cooked. Okay, they shouldn't have stems on them. Okay, so we need 7 to 8 tomatillos, and let's just get the Cuisinart bowl close by to you so you see what we're adding. Okay, so we need to have 7 to 8 tomatillos, and then we need 1 Poblano chili. And what is a Poblano chili? Well, that too is one of my favorite things, and they look like this. Okay, just going to show you. Let's not drip too much, but this is what they look like, okay? I made a whole tray of these. I eat them all week long and love them. They're dark, dark, dark green. They are not too spicy. They're kind of, I want to say that they're on the mild side. You almost never eat a hot Poblano chili, and we need 1 of these, okay? So what I've done is I've roasted that, and I've taken out all the seeds. I opened it up, you see, and there are no seeds. So that's going in. We're going to put in our tomatillos. We're going to make sure there's no little stem on that tomatillos, and I'm going to put in all the ones that I roasted. Might be more than 7 or 8, but a few of them were small. And then we need 1 small onion. Now it's up to you. You could use a raw onion, that's fine. But because I was roasting everything on 1 tray, I said, you know what? We're not using a lot of any salt in this, right? So we need to be conscientious of how we're going to bring up that flavor. And when you bring up the flavor, one of the things that's really going to help is if you roast the onion. But you certainly could use a raw onion, a raw white onion, a raw red onion, a shallot. That is totally up to you, okay? So I have 1 small onion here. I'm just going to go to the back here and just give it a little chop chop, okay? So that it's smaller. Okay, that's going in there. And then we need 3 garlic cloves, okay? And we've talked a lot about garlic cloves. If they're really, this is kind of they're all kind of the same size. These are kind of normal size ones. If you had little teeny ones, then you just use 2 or 3. But these are kind of normal, so those are going in there. And then we want to have some lime juice, a little bit of water. So let's just give it a little bit of water. And I actually have a little bit of the tomatillo juice. So why not use that as part of our water, right? I'm always about figuring out how do we use all of everything that we use, right? Everything, so nothing goes to waste, right? And you always are trying to build on flavors. So we want 1/4. I'm not going to put it all in because I don't know that we need it all, but I think we will actually. So I'm going to use it all. And then we need a little bit of cilantro. I said that if you want to use an avocado, you're welcome to do that, okay? An avocado, just a little bit of an avocado. It could be a half an avocado, 1/4. It's just gonna make it much creamier and richer. But I'm not putting the avocado in because I kind of save my avocados for toppings and things. But it is delicious in the salsa verde. So that is definitely just up to you, okay? And then of course we need lime juice, right? And we need about 2 tablespoons. So I've already squeezed the lime juice, so let's just go ahead and put that, okay? And I'm gonna just get rid of this little sample tray that we have and move it over here. I'm very proud of my tomatillos that have grown in the garden. They're just starting to come out. So we're gonna take this over here and carefully put it on. Now, I didn't get any cilantro. So let's just cut up some cilantro right this very minute and let the machine do the work for us, okay? That's what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna cut this cilantro, okay? Just a bunch. You can never have too much or too little. Maybe you could have too little actually, but I don't think you can have too much cilantro. Some people don't like cilantro at all, so if you don't like cilantro, then just don't use it. I never quite understand the people that don't like it, but I get it. I have to respect people that don't like things. I don't like a lot of things either. So we're gonna just puree this in a Cuisinart for just a couple minutes, okay? Just a very few minutes. So it's gonna be noisy for a minute and I'm not gonna talk to you. Yummy. Oh my gosh, yummy, yummy. Okay, now this part is up to you. The next part, this part is really up to you. Okay, I did it just a little bit. Can everyone see that? I leave it a little bit chunky, just a little bit chunky. But if you want it to be smoother, you can have it smoother. Okay, and remember, if you put the avocado, it will definitely be creamier and richer. Now, of course, we have to taste it. We can't just say it's done because we don't know that it's perfect. And maybe it needs a little bit more lime. And I just want you to know that when we put this in the refrigerator overnight and you go to it the next day, it does tend to get a little bit thicker, okay? So keep that in mind, okay? So this right now is a perfect consistency, and let's just give it a little bit of taste. Oh my God. Oh, and I just remembered what we didn't put in it, and it doesn't even need it actually, because my poblano was so delicious. But what we didn't put in was a jalapeno. And we could put a little bit. Let's just do that because I have it. I'm going to just put a little bit. I'm going to put this back on. And I'm going to, oh, the blade just moved. So we have to be careful here. And remember, when you're cutting the jalapeno, I have a whole one here that I cut in half. This was a whole jalapeno, okay? And I took it out, the seeds with a spoon, not with my fingers, because very spicy, right? And you don't want to, not only is it spicy, but it's hot. And if you had any open wounds, sometimes you wear a glove or a plastic bag over it. I'm just gonna take a 1/4 because the flavor is really there already. And I don't really want it to be too spicy. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of jalapeno, not a half, but a whole. It said this is one small jalapeno, but mine was a kind of medium size. And I'm gonna put just a little tiny bit more water. Okay, because again, it's gonna get thicker. And then we're just gonna finish pureeing that. And that is really our salsa, okay? That is our salsa right there. Okay, I'm just showing it to you. Of course, we're gonna get it into a bowl immediately. So let's just, it's so pretty. I get so, oh my gosh. It's like heavenly. I'm not sure, I think once the green salsa's around, I don't even interested in the red salsa. It's just like, the green salsa is just the winner as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so we're gonna put this in a bowl and we're gonna use this actually when we make our pizza. Believe it or not, it's gonna be our red sauce, okay? And we have a lot here, almost several cups. Wendy, I have a moment because I have to wash this Cuisinart for our next thing. So if you wanna ask a question, it's fine and dandy to do that.
I think it's so compelling, Carole. We have no questions to date, so you can forge ahead. And another one of your fan club members, Mitch Toplitsky's here as well. So,
oh, I love that.
Hello. A warm hello from Indiana.
Very nice. I love that very much because Mitch is one of those people that would love the Salsa Verde. Because
definitely.
He has Hispanic and Jewish blood like me. And sometimes I'm not sure if I'm Spanish, if I'm all the way Spanish or not, but somehow chilies and poblanos and all the kinds of things sit really comfortably with me. And I think Mitch is the same. So thanks for saying that he's there. And we're going to move on because our dough is already like poofy. It's like if I were to, you can see that it's risen. I know that you can't see this on camera, but it is a very exciting thing actually. So I'm gonna move all this and I'm gonna, we have a little bit of lime juice left here. I'm just gonna put it in because gosh, it can't hurt. And that way we just use it all up. And I'm just gonna move the onion for over there for later. And we are just moving along here. Okay, so back to pizza making. Now that we have our sauce, okay? The oven is on, as you know. And look, da-da-da. And how do I know this is ready? It's like if you make a little dimple. Can you see that on the camera? It's like if you were to poke your stomach and if you had any fat. Like that is like it's perfect. And what I can't live without when I'm making dough is my bench scraper. Okay, so this is a bench scraper here, and it is almost an essential tool if you're making any kind of bread. Okay, so we don't need to punch this down. This dough is ready to go. So I like making like 4 pieces, okay? 4 pieces. And what is important is when we are working this dough, and hopefully you can see everything. You can see here. Is when the dough that's just sitting, waiting to be rolled, I'm gonna cover it, okay? We don't want any air getting to this dough here. So it's just getting covered and I'm gonna move it out of the way, okay? And remember we have our little plate here of flour. The oven is on. We are gonna get our sheet pan. Okay, now you don't need to have a piece of parchment paper. You can just use your sheet pan, but I tend to just like putting parchment. It just makes cleanup just super, super easy. Okay, and I'm trying to make room here for everything that we're doing. I'm in a very small little squared area here. And of course, pizza, you know that you can hand shape it, right? But again, this dough is a little bit different and I prefer to roll it. You can make a circle if you want, but this pizza, I really like making oblong. It's kind of just makes me feel like it's just different and I like the way that it cuts and it's not into little triangles, it's into little sandwiches. So of course you want to always have plenty of flour on your board here, okay? And I'm just rolling, okay? I'm just rolling it out. And it's probably, I'm going to say, oh, look at, this is what it looks like at the moment. Okay, you don't want to roll it too thin because you don't want a cracker. Maybe you do. Maybe you want a cracker. But I would say it's about, you can't see through it. And it's long. It's about as long as my arm from here to here. Okay, you can see, right? It's about as long as my arm. And what we want to always put down on your sheet pan is a little cornmeal. Okay, that helps it from not sticking and gives it a nice little texture at the bottom. If you don't have cornmeal, you could use some flour. It's really okay, but I like the cornmeal. That's the authentic way, actually. So that's the cornmeal. Now at this point, you can just bake these, and we're going to do that, but for the very first ones we're going to make, we're going to just make really quickly here, and we're going to actually make we're going to build them, and we're going to cook them so that they're warm, okay? Now, I have a couple that I made ahead of time, actually, and that you can just make without putting any toppings on whatsoever, and you can just make it flatbread so that you can eat it tomorrow. And we're going to make our baba ghanoush. We're not going to cook pizza dough and then put baba ghanoush and put it in the oven. We want that one to be cold. So you can just make the flatbread and just like this, and just bake it, literally. Like we would bake it, we would put it in the oven right now, just like this, okay? But what we are going to do is we're going to quickly dress it up. And what are we going to dress it up with? We have lots of fun ingredients. And let me just get a little bit of a cutting board. And at this point, it is up to your own imagination how you do this, okay? I roasted some onions. Again, I did all of this at one time, and I have onions here. If you want to use raw onions, you can, but these are already, what's super great about these onions is they're really caramelized and they're very sweet, okay? I roasted some corn. I just put the whole corn in while I was cooking the tomatoes, the roasted, everything. And I made some red peppers. Again, if you don't want to do any of this, I know that Trader Joe's actually sells frozen roasted corn, and you can buy roasted red peppers in a jar already made. It's up to you. You have an imagination, and it's time for you to use it. Okay, so I'm just gonna decorate these. Of course, I like lots and lots of onions. Okay, you can, and I'm gonna get another one more onion here, actually. And as I said, they're very beautiful. And I'm gonna put those down first, actually. But you could also put the sauce, but these onions are big pieces. I have a few friends that don't like onions, but I know they would like these because these are sweeter than candy, and they would not be frightened of these. So these onions are going down. Okay, then I'm going to take this salsa, right, that we just made, and I'm going to put it all on top. Okay, just layer it on. Again, you're used to marinara sauce if you want to use marinara. Today, when I made this a little earlier, I didn't have this salsa ready, so I just used some salsa out of the fridge. So you don't even have to make your own salsa to have this. But I'm just trying to show you that you can have such a nice variety and things that are from the summer. And it's nice to have new flavors, right? We all like new flavors. We get bored with the things that we eat all the time. Okay, so now I'm going to just cut some roasted peppers. Okay, those are definitely going on. Okay, pretty. Oh my gosh, green and red, and you know, just think about how things look, right? We all eat with our eyes, and we all talk about eating the full rainbow. So we've got white and green, and we've got all the colors going on here. And then of course I have this corn. There's no way that I'm not putting corn on. Okay, corn is in season right now, and it's gonna get all toasty and brown in the oven. Okay, and this kind of pizza doesn't even need a cheese. And of course, if you wanted to make a cashew cheese, you're welcome to do that. Now, of course, there's no way this is leaving to go into the oven without having some kind of Poblano chili. Remember, we just used the Poblano chili in the salsa. Gonna get some of these seeds out by just rinsing it, so we don't get all those seeds on our pizza. Okay, and we are just gonna chop this up. Okay, it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect in any way, honestly. And look at, I'm just gonna eat that. It's not, well, it's a little spicy. It's a little spicy. You know, I bought these yesterday at the market and they're super fresh. Okay, now when this pizza comes out, I'm putting basil on it. You could put cilantro if you wanted. Okay, and I think it's missing just a hair bit of red. Actually, I would like a little red, and I have a little bit of tomato here just a little bit. So I'm just gonna put that on there. Might as well just, again, use your imagination. Okay, so that's what these look like. Can you see? Everybody can see that, and it looks really yummy. And that's going in a 425-degree oven right this very minute. Okay. And how long? Until it's done. How will you know it's done? The bottom will be brown. It's about 10 to 15 minutes. So if you have everything ready on a weeknight, you could make the dough. You've already prepped all the things maybe ahead of time. And you've got pizza for your family and friends. Really simple, really easy. What am I going to do with the rest? Here, let's just clean this up really quickly. So I have a clean knife. And I just want to show you that what I'm going to do, so while we have the counter dirty, we're going to spend 2 seconds, and we're just going to roll out the rest, because eventually it has to, you see it's gotten all puffy again, you see? So I'm going to always put a little flour down, and we're going to put those in the oven. This will go in the oven without any topping, okay? And if you're too heavy-handed, right, with your flour, you don't want to really be having a ton of flour. Right? And again, I'm just making these in a shape that kind of looks like a oblong big piece of cracker, kind of like a long piece like this, okay? If you are too heavy-handed, you just get out a brush, right? And you get rid of that flour, okay? You just dust it and you get rid of that flour, okay? And I'm just going to put these underneath here. They're going to sit underneath. And when the pizza when that other pizza comes out, we'll just throw those onto the cutting board. Okay? Again, you can make it round if you want. It's up to you. Don't have to. I like them long. And how do they look? I don't even bother to put a fork in them. I like them looking like this. Okay? See how that's all puffy? There's a big air pocket in there because I didn't poke it with a fork. If you poke it with a fork all over the place, there'll be no air in there. But I kind of like that, the beauty of that. So I leave it like that. Those cold ones are going to be for cold toppings. When we put hummus or baba ganoush, or even the Romesco when it's cold. Okay? So we're going to move this flour, going to get it out of the way and back into the little container, okay? And we are going to put this underneath. I don't have another sheet pen, so this is going to just sit now underneath here, just resting until those other ones come out, okay? So that's the pizza, and we are moving on. And I have a dirty counter, but that's okay because we're going to use this flour again.
2 quick questions before moving on. Can you keep the dough overnight to use it the next day?
You know, I haven't tried that, and you could try it. I mean, normally, yes. If it was regular, what I call regular pizza dough, that is actually better to sit. The longer it sits, the more it develops. I would say absolutely yes. This, to me, I just use it, and I just make it all at one time. So just try it. I think it could work. Like I said, this is a quick one, and I don't know if it would stay, but could.
Excellent. And another quickie, I know it's in the recipes, but how long did you roast the vegetables, the tomatillos and all that? Was it about 20 minutes?
It depends on the size, because if little things get, and sometimes things are big, so sometimes I pluck things off the tray, one at a time. But I would say 20 to 25 minutes. You can do it on 425. That's what I suggest. Or you could do it if you were broiling. You can broil them. you just better watch them. Don't be leaving the room and go do something else, okay? If you're putting anything like the tomatillos in the broiler, just stay close by because they are going to cook in 10 minutes.
Right.
Okay? And you could, if you had a grill, of course you could put them on the grill, but most of us just have a stove.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Can we move on, Wendy? Is it okay?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, so we are going to move on to flatbread, another kind of flatbread that I love very much. I think I've taught Wendy how to make this dozens of times. It's not a vegan Risha recipe. You can find her online. I slightly adapted it just a little bit because she uses a little bit of oil. She uses a little bit of salt. Not too much, actually. But I was conscientious and I did take that out. So I just want you to be aware of that. So what do we need to do? This is we're making two kinds of flatbread, both of them vegan Risha. She makes one that's a cauliflower flatbread and one that's a sweet potato. So I couldn't do one without the other. So we're going to whiz through the whole cauliflower one, and then you're going to understand how to do it. And that means that then you will do the sweet potato one following almost the exact same steps with just little bit different ingredients, okay? So we want to have 1 cup of cooked cauliflower, okay? So 1 cup. I cut it up into small pieces and I blanched it, and it's already cooked. It's not overcooked. It's just 1 cup of cauliflower, steamed or boiled, doesn't matter, okay? And we want to mix that. We want to put that into our Cuisinart, okay? It's going right into our Cuisinart with our blade, like this, with 3 tablespoons of water, okay? And I love that bowl. So, and instead of throwing things out, right, instead of going to get 3 tablespoons of water, I know one of you could probably say, what does Carole do? Well, she saves the cauliflower water, because I'm always talking about flavor, 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 not throwing things out. So this is the water that I poured off. I thought, why get fresh water when we could use the cauliflower water? Okay, so we need 3 tablespoons. So 1 and 2 and 3, okay? And if I were to taste this water, I'm sure it's absolutely delicious. Okay, we're gonna put this on the Cuisinart, okay? Now, if you didn't have a Cuisinart, and you could easily mash that with a fork, no problem, but what we're trying to do is to break down the florets and make it somewhat creamy. And I'm just gonna take the lid. I have a little bit of salsa still in my lid, so I have to rinse that really quickly. And also dry it, okay? I'm smelling the pizza and it's smelling really delicious, okay? And I can hear the oven just cooking it away. So we're gonna puree this, okay? I always like getting a spatula. It always goes up the side. Okay, so that's puree, and we're going to need this Cuisinart one more time. Okay, so what is in this bowl here? Okay, so we've measured, so we have the cauliflower with the water, and we basically pureed that. And then to the bowl, we are having a very special thing called psyllium. Psyllium is something that comes either in a bag or in a container like this. Most of you know what psyllium is. It actually is a fiber. It's made from a husk, and it actually has a lot of different kinds of properties. It actually can be good. It's mainly used in a product that we're familiar with called Metamucil, because it actually helps with constipation. Well, in baking, actually, it actually helps gel things together. So it's something that is used in both the sweet potato as well as the cauliflower flatbread. And it's very easy to find. You can find this in maybe not the regular grocery store, maybe a health food store. But I did give Wendy a link that she could share with you. And so we have the psyllium. And we're going to actually, I kind of measured everything out ahead of time, but I'll try to follow the recipe a little more than I intended. So the psyllium is here, and I had already almost mixed it with everything, the chickpea flour and everything. But let's just get this in, like it says, and we'll get the cauliflower, okay, in here. And let's get rid of this blade, okay? Sometimes these recipes, I just decide not to follow any of the steps because it's just easy to just do it your own way. And once you have your confidence, you also can do it your own way. Usually when I make something the first time, I always try to follow the recipe because maybe there's a reason for the order of things, but sometimes not. Sometimes there's not a reason. So this I'm just mixing with the psyllium, right? You can see that it's coming together really quick, and I'm kind of smashing it in, getting it all mixed up, okay? Again, this is a gluten-free bread, which is really delicious. It's a very yummy with Indian food. It can be with anything, actually, but it's particularly good with Indian food. And I'm getting all that cauliflower smashed. I had a few little pieces. So what's left here in this bowl is I have a half a cup of chickpea flour. I have a 1/4 cup of tapioca starch. But you can use any starch that you have, a potato starch, an arrowroot starch, a corn starch. Any starch will do, okay? And then a little bit of baking powder. And then I have a little bit of oregano. You can add another kind of spice if you'd like. And then a little bit of garlic powder, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wet mixture now, okay? I've now dirtied 2 bowls, which I really hate, actually. I try to minimize cleanup sometimes. This is very sticky. We're going to just make sure, I always make sure my hands are super clean, even though I know that they're super clean, but I'm just going to make sure they're clean. Anytime I dive into the dough, let's look while my hands are clean. Let's just spend a minute looking in the oven. Okay, things are happening. We don't need to worry about that. Okay, hands into the bowl. This is the best way. And we're just going to get this all to come into a ball, okay? And what I should have done before I put my hands into this was get the little burner on, the burner on the thing. Let's just see if I can touch this and turn it on with, well, there goes the knob. The knob has a ton of flour on it. That's the thing with baking. You end up with a ton of flour. So I feel you can see how this is coming together. Okay, you can see, I want to just show you. It's a little bit sticky, and I'm going to pull it together. It doesn't need any more liquid, okay? Only when you overcook your cauliflower and you end up with tons of water in it does that. So you have to deal with it. But it's actually coming together really, really well. Now, of course, I'm going to have some extra flour on the side, which is really the chickpea flour, okay? And just like when we made the pizza and I put the flour in, okay, so that is this bowl. See how that came together? Look at that. Look at that. Now, I do have some garbanzo bean. It's called chickpea flour, garbanzo bean flour. Sometimes Busan is the actual Indian name. So I'm getting this off my fingers because if I had the flour out, I wouldn't be having to put that, really scrub my hands. I would have just taken all this off with the flour. But I really wasn't prepared that way. And while I'm here washing, we're going to need this squeeze knife in just a bit for the Romesco. We are moving along.
Carole?
I'm just so Yes, Wendy, did I hear your voice?
You did. Quick question as you're watching. Can you use cauliflower rice instead of the cauliflower?
Riced cauliflower. Riced cauliflower is what you mean. Yes, you could. Just make sure that you have a cup of it.
Right.
Just make sure you have a cup of it, right? So you're going to measure it out, and definitely that would work.
And
so here's this ball. I just want you to see. Here's this ball. It's a little bit sticky, okay? Just a little bit sticky, but I'm going to put it on this. Right now, there is whole wheat flour on the counter. And we're trying to make something that doesn't have wheat in it. So I'm going to try not to mix those two things up together. And I have a lot of bowls and a big mess in here, but I'm just trying to organize things just a hair, setting myself up for the next thing. And let's just get a little bit of this whole wheat flour, and this is where your bench scraper comes in hand, okay? This is the magic of the bench scraper. It allows you to scrape your counter and get as much flour off as possible, and then that can go right into the garbage, okay? And that is at least somewhat clean. So I'm gonna now get some garbanzo flour, because we're gonna roll. We're gonna put some of that on the counter, right? Or we could use brown rice flour, anything that's not gluten, because we're trying to not have gluten in this, right? Okay, and I'm just gonna, this ball, I usually kind of roll out, okay? I roll it into a little log, and it makes about 6 pieces. So I'm just gonna cut it into, first I'm gonna cut it in half, and then I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. Okay, you see how simple that is? Okay, so this is on the burner. If the pan is getting hot, you're going to cook it. This is a ceramic pan, but if you have a cast iron pan, you could put it in the cast iron pan. So 2 ways of doing this, okay? You can carefully take each little thing and make a little, you can make a ball if you want, or you can just make a circle, all right? It's already like this. You see, I just kind of made it into a circle, okay? And you have to have a lot of flour. And where did my little scoop go? I'm lost without the scoop. I usually have lots of flour on the counter, just so, but I'm trying not to make a mess here with you all today. I'm just trying to keep it all contained. And if I only knew exactly where my rolling pin went, it's closer to me than I realized. And what you're going to do is roll this out, okay? And it's going to stick. If it's sticking, then you just need a little more flour, okay? In this instance, adding the flour, okay? You see how I'm kind of moving it around, okay? And I'm making a circle, okay? This is what this is looking like. And you don't want those edges thick, and you want a little more flour and a little flour on your rolling pin here. And you're just making a circle, okay? And this is going to cook, and it's going to be out of this world delicious. And you can make these ahead of time. I have definitely made them ahead of time, but they are the best when they're made, cooked, and served, okay? You can have them for tomorrow, but I'm telling you they're most delicious and best eaten fresh, okay? So this is your circle, okay? It looks like this. It's pretty thin. I would say about an 1/8 inch. You could get your brush, if you have the brush, and get rid of all the extra chickpea flour, okay? It has a little bit of a texture, and this is just going in there like that. Now, I have to tell you, this is a burner that I would never use for this. I usually use a gas stove, but let's just see how it cooks up. It should get brown, okay? For those of you that actually, if you don't have a rolling pin, people say, what do I do? I say, well, then get a wine bottle and just roll things out yourself that way, okay? And then we want to get this out of here. And, oh, my bench scraper is further away than ever, okay? And I'm going to show you one other easy trick. All of you know another flatbread is really called what? A tortilla, right? So let's just say you have a tortilla machine, because it's something that you just have. And I have demonstrated tortillas over a year ago now, so maybe many of you are new and haven't seen the tortillas. But what you do is you take a little sandwich bag and you cut it so that it's open, and it's open on all 3 sides. And you literally are going to have to put a little bit of flour, okay, so it doesn't stick. And this is instead of rolling, okay? Instead of rolling, you are going to smash it like a tortilla. And will it work? Of course it will. But this is sticky, so you have to make sure you have enough flour. So this is going to be like this. And look at that. Now you have a flat one, you see? So you can use either one. Now this is, again, very sticky. And I'm going to slowly peel it off. And let me get the little spatula here and see what's going. Okay, this is getting brown and it's puffing up. How did I know to turn it? Because I could see, remember we put a little baking powder in, so it is rising, okay? Let's look at the pizza for a moment, see how it's doing. I think it's pretty done. It is, actually. It is really done. Look, it's beautiful. Just want to show you. It's really pretty, and the bottom is brown. We'll leave it to cool for a moment. I'm going to take it off the platter really quickly here. Just going to, give me 1 second. Just going to take it off the platter. Ah, hot. Very hot. One has to be very careful. And I'm going to cook these, okay? We're going to get these in the oven. We're going to just put this right on top. These ones are going to have nothing on top. These are just going to be naked. And they're going to go in there. And I'm not tinning them with a fork. And we're just going to cook those. And they're going to cook up fast. Okay, so these, we'll just put this to the side, but this is what these look like. Okay?
They look absolutely delicious.
And we'll put fresh basil on them for sure, but just, we don't have room right this minute, and we're doing a lot of things, so they're going to stay over here for now, okay? And we are going to just make sure what's happening here. You see how this is browned? Can everyone see this? It's very hot, okay? But it's done. I'm just going to leave that there for 1 second, okay? And we are going to cook another one, and I'm going to get a plate to put this on. And I usually make all of them at the same, one right after another. And then if you're having company in a half an hour, just put them in the oven and just keep them warm, because I think it's the nicest when they're warm. Now, we're not going to make the sweet potato ones from beginning to end, because you saw what I did with the cauliflower. You're going to do the exact same thing, only with the sweet potato, and almost the exact same ingredients. The only difference is that you change up the spices in the sweet potato one, and I put rosemary and fresh thyme, actually. So here's this finished. We're going to get this one cooking. Okay, this one is going to come off the plastic. This is the one we didn't roll out by ourselves. We had the help of the tortilla, and I'm going to show you that I actually did this ahead of time, and I made sweet potato. Here are the balls, the same balls. They're a little bit harder actually than I imagined. I've never made them made them earlier. We're just gonna try to see if we can smash this as well. Okay, and that is that. See, it looks like a tortilla. I think it could be just a little thinner. Get that. Again, we could roll it like I showed you to roll it, or you could smash it in your tortilla. You can see how much easier this is when you're doing the tortilla idea. But you certainly, if you don't have a tortilla press, then of course you're going to have to roll it out. So while this is cooking, we're just going to finish 1 or 2 more, okay? And then we're going to clean up, and we're going to move on to our very last things. Okay, so what we've done so far is we've made our pizza. We've made our cauliflower flatbread. Cauliflower flatbread could have some of our sauces on it, or it could be just plain eaten by itself. Let's get some of this flour, and let's just roll this out really fast. See, I can see, you can't see this on the camera. I know you can, but it's starting to puff, okay? It's puffing, so that's why I know to turn it, okay? And it's brown, you see it's brown on all those sides. So it's cooking perfect, actually. And sometimes I get ahead of myself because I'm a fast roller, and I just get all this rolled, and then I'm just waiting for them to get into the pan, okay? Is there any questions, Wendy, when we move? We're going to move on to our last 2, our baba ganoush and our Romesco.
Yes, Carol, there was a question, which is, give me 1 second. Can you describe the difference between baking soda and baking powder? And could you use baking soda instead of baking powder with the?
No, you want to use baking powder in this, and there is a difference between the soda and the powder, and I don't want to get caught up in all that. That is an easy question. You can literally Google that question, but you do need the powder in this particular. There's nothing to activate the soda, and you want this. You definitely want the powder in this. Right. Definitely. That is a for sure thing. Is there any other question while we're talking?
That's it. Feel free
to pretty. I just want to show you how pretty.
Stunning.
Okay. And then I'm getting this in. I'm just determined. I know I'm not going to make them all, but just because I have a messy counter, and eventually I'm going to clean it up, and I have 1 minute to get all of these just simply rolled. Okay, simply rolled, and then we might not roll them all, but again, just nice to get it all done, and you can see the process. And you can see that sometimes I don't put enough flour, and I can see that it's actually stuck. But you get that bench scraper, and everything works, just comes up. If you're going to do any kind of baking, I would suggest you invest in one of these. I've had mine forever, and it is such a good cleanup tool when you have a dirty counter. So I'm going to put these extra balls, I'm going to cover them up so that they don't dry out. And later on, I will finish rolling those out. I'm going to just get this done here. That is browning. And we are going to get this cleaned up. Okay? And we have our little breads in the oven. Yeah, they're puffing. They're puffing, puffing, puffing. And I'm going to semi-clean up. I know you're not going to believe. There's no way that I can work in this dirty area. It's impossible. Okay, we are just not used to having such a dirty, floury counter when I'm trying to show you everything. But we will make this work. Okay? And I just put the dough scraper, and you're going to see that this is just the way to get it clean. And then you pack it with a wet sponge. Try not to get too much flour in your sponge. We're not going to be 100% clean here, but we are going to be clean enough. I always say when you're cooking or baking, anything you're doing, have a clean head on you, a clean mind, so that you don't feel like it's all crowded and you're putting good energy into all your food. Okay, so we are going to turn this over. I almost turned it over with my fingers. And the next thing we're going to do, we have Romesco, and let's get that done because it has a lot of ingredients. And we will watch these, and we have our little plate of them right here. Okay, everyone can see this. I'll put it pretty close. We have one more to cook, and yeah, we have one more to cook. And oh, I just remembered we didn't cook our sweet potato one. So let's get the sweet potato one into the pan the next. Okay, this is the sweet potato one. And we're just going to let it sit on top of that. Okay, and I'm going to check this really quickly. You see, these are done. How do I know they're done? They're brown on the bottom. You see, they're brown on the bottom. And I like them a little bit soft. Okay, so those are done. That oven is, everything in the oven is done, and I'm turning it off. And we're piling up these breads. Those can be eaten for the next couple days, actually, as long as you wrap them and put them in an air-tight container. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is our Romesco. Let's get this one out of the pan. Okay, get this. Let's do the cauliflower one, and then we'll do the sweet potato. That's going to cook. And let's start our Romesco. Romesco is something that I used to eat all the time, a long, long time ago when I ate fish. It's a sauce that is from Catalonia, actually. The Spaniards eat it. They put it just on a baguette. They just spread it onto a baguette. They drizzle olive oil over it. And that is how they eat it. It can also be tossed on pasta. It can be used as a spread on a flatbread. That's also a very common thing. So we are going to make this because it usually is made with olive oil and usually has some salt in it. But because it's my favorite recipe, there was no way when I gave up sugar, salt, and oil that I was getting rid of Romesco, because it had to be in my life. So we are still going to have it, and we are just going to adapt the recipe that I've always used and always have made forever and ever. Now, if I could just find what side of the piece of paper that it's on here, that would be awesome. Okay, so what do we need? It's made up of roasted red peppers. So we have roasted red peppers here. Again, you can buy them out of a jar. We need to also, this is a lot of ingredients, and you're not going to believe, but on one sheet pan, I cook all of it. All of it goes into the oven at the same time, and then I slowly pick things off one at a time because certain things are going to be ready ahead of other times. But I just put it all on one sheet pan and put it in the oven. So, but I've prepared it ahead. So we need, the base of the sauce is roasted red peppers and tomatoes. So let's get our Cuisinart. Okay, we have our Cuisinart and we have our blade. Okay, and we also are still cooking over here, so we can't forget our cauliflower things. So I have 3 whole tomatoes. I cut them in half. I roasted them in the oven till they were, and then I peeled their skin off, and then I squeezed their juice out when they were done. Okay, so I went and I literally left this one. I took the little skin off and I squeezed the juice. Okay, and I definitely am not throwing that juice out. It's going into my stock bin, my little bag of stock. Maybe some of you saw the little tip the other day, saving everything. Okay, so this is 3 tomatoes. Okay, their skins are off and their seeds are out. So this again is a little bit of juice left. That gets saved. That's important. Okay, then we have 1 whole red pepper. Okay, and that also has been roasted, and the red pepper is now going in there. Okay, and that's going into the sink. And I have wet hands, and we have to take our little cauliflower thing out. It's good that I know how to do 2 things at one time. This is going in here like that. Okay, so back to this. Then we need to have nuts in here. We have actually slivered almonds, and we have what are called hazelnuts. Sometimes people call them filberts, okay? You don't need very many nuts. You actually only need 2 tablespoons of each kind of nut, okay? So I also roasted those in the oven, and I'm just looking, here's my big 2 tablespoons. This is 2 tablespoons, and I lightly toasted these. They were on the same sheet pan as everything else, the red pepper, the tomatoes, but I took them out earlier because they were done. So 2 tablespoons of that, okay? We need to have 4 garlic cloves, okay? These were also, 4 garlic cloves had paper on them. They were also roasted, and then when they came out and they were soft, I took the papers off. So that is the garlic cloves, okay? Now, we can't forget about the very special nuts, and those are called hazelnuts, and I left them in the little towel because I wanted to show you a very quick thing. When the nuts are in the oven, they get very brown, and they get their little skins get very, very brown. And if any of you, this is what they look like. Once their skins are off, I'm just going to show you. Oops, I just lost one to the counter there. But they look like this. When they come out of the oven, the way to get their brown skins off, actually, just de-shell them, is to throw them into a towel and just rub them with your hand like this. Rub, rub, rub. It's like my favorite thing. We used to have to do this in the restaurant with hundreds and hundreds of hazelnuts. And I would just say, I'll do that. I like doing that. Because it was kind of my goal to get off all the skins. And what can I show you here is that the skins all get touched to the towel. And we need 2 tablespoons of these, okay? So I'm going to take 2 tablespoons. And now their skins are off, and it's much nicer. You could put the skins, it's okay to have the skins on, but it's much nicer to not have them on because often it's just kind of dark and not tasty, so tasty. So I'm gonna move those over here. We don't need all of those. So we've done our hazelnuts, our almonds. But we have to do our New Mexican chilies. Now, if you think because I'm living in New Mexico that I suddenly decided to have New Mexican, I've always used New Mexican chilies. They are long, they're about 6 inches long. Sometimes they are really from New Mexico. There's a variety of them, not just one kind. Most of them are hatch chilies. But if you couldn't find a New Mexican chili, another name for them, you can get similar ones from California. Okay, so what I did was I put these in the oven. They're seeds. If you listen, I always take their top off, and literally I take their seeds and I collect the seeds, and I take their seeds out. Okay, they just shake all out. You see, I put them all on a plate, and you take the seeds out. You put this on your sheet pan. These are the first thing to be ready because they toast and they cook in 1 minute. Oops, and so does our sweet potato flatbread over here. Oops, I almost burnt it. See, but it's okay. It looks pretty. And you want to toast this in the oven for a very few minutes. And then after you toast it, you want to then put it in water in a saucepan and just boil it for a very couple of minutes. And basically it softens them. Okay, so now those were dried and now they are really soft. So those two, and there's some beautiful juice. And if you think I threw away the water from when we cooked those, I did not, because the water could be delicious when I'm cooking pasta, extending this sauce. And then we need some parsley, okay? And then we need some bread. Now when I made this sauce years and years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I always used the typical thing, which was a piece of baguette. Okay, a white piece of bread. But I don't really use that kind of bread in my house any longer. So what do I have? I have Ezekiel bread here. So I toasted 1 piece of Ezekiel bread. Okay, 1 piece toasted. Okay, and it's hard as a rock. It's toasted, it's dry, and that's going in here. Okay, and that is everything. So we're just gonna put this on the Cuisinart. Okay, and get that blade down. Okay, and we are going to put the lid on, and we're just going to see its consistency once we get this all. Oh, let me get the spatula. It looks delicious. It looks really delicious. Really nice and dark red. But I don't want to pull it off quite yet. But I do want to taste it. Remember I told you that I saved the water when I boiled the chili. The 2 New Mexican chilies, I saved the water. And I want to use that, a little bit of that in here. Doesn't say that in the recipe, but I just want it to be a little thinner. It's up to you how thick the sauce you want. Okay, that's it. That is definitely it. What does that look like? It looks like this. Beautiful, beautiful red. It doesn't need the olive oil. It really doesn't. I mean, I would never give up this sauce just because it doesn't have the olive oil, because it's just as delicious. And we're going to get a little tasting spoon just out here. Make sure that it tastes good. It's delicious. It is absolutely delicious. So this can, again, just go spread on bread. We have our flatbread, right? Or we could put it on pizza if we want. If we wanted to put it on our raw dough and then put things on top of it, we could use it like a marinara. You could also use it like a marinara in a sense of if you want to cook pasta, right? And this will keep a number of days, at least 5 or 6 days in the refrigerator, okay? And you can see it makes a lot. probably about 2 cups, maybe a little bit more. But it is one of my very favorite sauces. And I think that you can figure out other creative ways of using this. You could use it as a dip for a crudité. If you have cut celery and carrots, red peppers, you could, already has red peppers in it, but that is this sauce. Okay, we'll use that in a moment. But I just want to start clearing off the counter for our very last thing. Is there any questions, Wendy, about the Romesco?
Carole, you are good to go. We don't have any questions, and
it's fantastic.
Yeah, good to go.
Fantastic, and I really can't tell you that these are my favorite things, and that's why I had to show you so many things at one time, because in my head, all of these things kind of go together because they're all quick. You can almost ad-lib them. Once you understand what the ingredients are, you don't really need a recipe for these things, okay? And the last thing that we're going to make very quickly, and we're not even going to use the Cuisinart because it's something I don't use the Cuisinart for anymore, is we're going to make a very quick baba ganoush. And baba ganoush is another Middle Eastern, very common in Israel, very common Palestine, and you want to roast your eggplants, okay? And I mentioned a couple weeks ago when we did ratatouille that I like buying the little eggplants, okay? I bought 3 little eggplants, okay? That's about probably 2 cups if you were to imagine it. And the first thing that I like doing when I'm making this all by hand is when I'm getting my very sharp knife and I get the garlic out, okay? And I want to have lots of garlic. And let me just tell you that I usually use 2 to 3, but I'm going to see what I wrote down. We have 2 cloves of garlic here. And we're not putting any salt, okay? Eggplant is one of those vegetables that is like a sponge. And whatever flavor you put on it, it absorbs, okay? So normally people put salt, but we are not. So I am taking this and I'm putting a lot of lemon zest. So what I did was I took a lemon and I peeled it and I made these, I basically did this. I peeled it. And that's gonna be what our real strong flavor is from the lemon zest, okay? And this is the garlic. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna literally, again, you could make this in the Cuisinart, okay? But why if you can just do it all on your cutting board, okay? And there's something, I don't know, maybe I feel it's a little bit of a meditation for me or some kind of, I don't know, process that I just love the way that it comes together when you're folding it, mixing in the garlic, mixing in the lemon, okay? On the cutting board, because if you take the knife, you see you already smashing it, okay? It's already becoming the dip that it needs to be. Now, how did I cook those eggplants? Someone might wonder. You could do it in 2 ways, and I tell you in the recipe, okay? You can, 1, put them in a very hot oven on a sheet pan, and you want to prick them with a fork like you do a sweet potato, right? And you put them in the oven, and you cook it for, again, 25, 30 minutes, depending on the size. How do you know it's done? Because it's just like a sweet potato. You can put a fork in it, and it's soft, or it also kind of collapses on itself. It will kind of blow up, and then it will kind of collapse on itself. The way that I love doing it and the way that I learned from an Israeli chef that I work with is to cook the eggplant on the gas burner. So you basically turn the gas burner on and you literally put the eggplant on it, on top of the gas. And you never walk away. You never leave the stove because it is basically cooking it and charcoaling it. And you just never want to leave because sometimes there are little charred pieces that are flying, and you don't want to set off you could set off your fire alarm depending on how close the fire alarm is to your stove. I have done that before, so I will warn you that it can happen. Your fire alarm starts to go off, but you literally use the tongs like this, right? You use this tongs and you rotate the eggplant until it's brown on all the sides. And you'll know the whole eggplant is just cooked because it's soft and squishy inside. Okay, so the baba ganoush needs tahini and it needs lemon juice. So at this point, I kind of pretend that we're making, if any of you have ever made pasta dough, it is like this, where you make a hole in it and then you put normally your eggs in the pasta dough. But I am actually, because we're doing this all on the counter, here, we need our tahini. Our tahini is right here. Okay, and how many tablespoons? We need actually 3 tablespoons, and I have seemed to have, I don't know where the 1 tablespoon went, but that's okay. We can just use this spoon, that's fine. And again, it's not an exact science, so I'm just gonna put 1, and then 2, and then 3, okay? It's very liberal, okay? It can, maybe we'll need more, but maybe not. That's tahini. And then we need to have some lemon, okay? And lemon is really gonna be to taste, okay? And I'm just literally, you can see, I'm doing this on the cutting board. It could be potentially a disaster, but it's not, actually. And I'm gonna start to mix this in with my knife. I'm just gonna start to blend it up. Again, everybody will tell you this needs to be made in a machine. And this is the one thing I actually love not making in the machine. Okay, and that all has to get mixed up like that. And at this point, what is super delicious is a little bit of, you could put a little bit of balsamic if you want, if you want to. Again, we have not put any salt. So what is really going to flavor this is our lemon, okay? The lemon that I almost want to call a lime. And let's just taste this to see how it is. It's very smoky tasting because of the way we prepared the eggplant. It's very garlicky, and the lemon is delicious. And I actually would like a little more lemon on it, just a little bit. And I'm gonna put a little more. We're gonna just get this lemon out and put a little bit more. You can never have enough, okay? And then we're just gonna mix this in like this, right? And of course, it's delicious with some parsley or cilantro, either one. So I'm just gonna I have a little bit of parsley left here, not a lot. I have a little bit here. I'm literally going to chop it with the same knife that I've been using. Just gonna get all this used. And what am I going to do with this? This is not garbage. Remember, this is going to go into the pile for stock. Okay, definitely for stock. That goes right into the bag of stock. I'm just going to give this a chop, chop, chop. And then we're going to fold this in. And the one other secret ingredient, there are a couple little ingredients that I love with this. Another old thing that I used a lot when I ate is pomegranate molasses. Now, it does have a little bit of sugar in it, and I do buy a jar of, it looks like this. It's a Middle Eastern, just so you know. It's a pomegranate molasses. It is delicious, drizzled on here. Absolutely, it's a little tangy. If you don't want to use a product that has any sugar, but you want to have a flavor like pomegranate, you would just cut up you would just buy the pomegranate juice and reduce it on the stove, and it would become a syrup, and with no added sugar. And I've done that too before. Okay, so this is beautiful. We're going to get our little presentation bowl for it and get this all scooped up into here. Let's just get this into here like this. Okay, and you see how easy that is. It's a beautiful spread. And you're wondering, what am I going to do with all this? Well, of course, I will finish this little demo out and finish what we really want to get done here, which is topping these flatbreads. And let's just get a clean cutting board back here. Okay, a clean cutting board. We don't have to have that right there. We're going to get our flatbread, maybe the one that is small, not a big one, one that looks like this, right? And we're going to put this baba ghanoush on top, right? And from here, you can do whatever ideas you have, right? You can eat this just like this, right? Just like this. This is ready to go. Or you could put some chickpeas, or you could grate some carrots. There are infinite amounts of things you can do. I'm going to let you be the one that comes up with the creative ideas. I've just showed you that this is a delicious way of eating flatbread with baba ghanoush. Another thing that you could do is I have some pomegranates, and you could put all the pomegranates on top. It's Rosh Hashanah time right now, and well, it's over, but we're approaching Yom Kippur, but we eat a lot of pomegranates during this time, and I happen to have some. So that is a beautiful way of serving this baba ghanoush, right, over flatbread. And we would present it. Let's just put it here, right? And let's get rid of this towel. I have this nice board here, and we'll just start lining these up, right? And we also have bread. Maybe we don't want to use a whole one, right? But we have, let's just use a partial one, right? And put this back, and we can serve our Romesco. Again, don't be confused between Romesco and Romanesco. You all have heard me talk about Romanesco, which is a vegetable. This is Romesco, which is a sauce from Spain, right? Now, what would be delicious on top of this? I'm always trying to get my greens in. So I would put some arugula, which I have in the fridge, but I didn't take any out. But we could take out, because I have an enormous amount of basil, that some basil would be delicious on top. So let's just cut some basil and put some of that on top. And that can be eaten cold. Again, you could put more things on top, but remember, it's pretty delicious, just like it is. And maybe this is a big piece, so maybe you want to just cut it into another kind of piece, right? And let's, oh my God, it's out of this world. It's so delicious. It is so yummy. I cannot tell you. And then our very last thing is our pizza that we made back here that already has toppings, right? And of course, I like cutting it into, this is why I like the long pieces, okay? I like, instead of having circle and having triangles, I think this is a much prettier way of serving. Now it looks like this one piece didn't get any topping, okay? And again, I promised and said, let's put basil on top of this too, because why? Because I have a ton of it, and it's also growing in the yard, and it adds to the flavor. And we can get this off the cutting board because it's pretty. It's not so pretty, actually. Let's just move all this so you can actually see. Let's get this display out here, and we can just slide this on and have our pizza like that. And Wendy, that's everything. That is everything we're making.
That is absolutely fantastic. It looks delicious. Do you want to raise it up to the camera just one more time so people can see how beautiful?
Sure. So we have this. We have the pizza with the corn and the chilies and the salsa verde, right? We can't forget that we made salsa verde almost 40 minutes ago, but it's here in the bowl, right? We made romesco, which is here, which is a delicious sauce for anything imaginable. We made our baba ghanoush with eggplant, which is also in season right now. Every single one of these things are in season, and take advantage of it. And then we made our cold bread, our flatbread, that has the Romesco with the baba Ghanoush with some pomegranate seeds. And of course, this bread could also be topped with anything you wanted, but it's got flavoring inside already and can be just eaten the way that it is. So it doesn't necessarily need a topping, but could you put the Romesco on top of the cauliflower? Of course.
Absolutely fantastic. And what a way to welcome the fall, particularly the school year starting, and quick meals for lunches or dinners or any of that. There were very few questions, Carole. I'm just, we even have, well, no, we're right at time, 6:30. So you're getting many, many thanks in the chat. Many people saying, looks amazing. Thank you. Our friend Carole from Maryland is here, as she's been from the beginning. So wonderful. Has already signed up for all the upcoming classes. I've put some links in the chat for everyone. Please join us again for Plant Powered Metro New York events. We have a really special lecture coming up on the 14th with Nathan Gershfeld. He'll be addressing fasting. He runs one of the very few eating and fasting clinics out in California. He had studied with Alan Goldhammer at True North, and it's really a treat to have him. So he'll be joining us on September 14th from 7 to 8:15. The link is through Plant Powered Metro New York. We have a farmer's market tour that Carole, Chef Carole, used to do. That she's now in Taz. So we're doing one at the Union Square Market this September, the 18th. And then we do have a 21-day jumpstart coming up in mid-October, actually early October, for anyone who's looking to transition to a whole food plant-based diet. We will be taking you through the evidence-based studies, the whys, the hows, and you'll be getting a mentor within that period of time and a group you can be with to actually help make that transition. So for those of you who are not yet whole food plant-based who are interested, for those of you who might know of somebody, please follow the information or come join our newsletter or look online, and we'll have all the information on how to register. It's a publicly available 21-day jumpstart. So please come on board. So our next Cooking with Chef Carole class is in October, same time, 5 to 6:30. I just realized I don't have our actual date, but that'll be October 11th, exactly. So October 11th, next month. And of course, you can find us on our website, plantpoweredmetronewyork.org, and you can reach Carole by email, Carole with an E, Carole, at thevegievanguard.com. And you can follow her beautiful photographs and her meals and the food she's preparing on Instagram at thevegievanguard.com. So that's it for today. I hope you all enjoy your pizzas, your flatbreads, your sauces, dips, all of it. As we all jump into autumn. And thank you everyone for coming. Oh, it's October 17th.